ago, we lost the season. We've had 4 seasons from that. We're the only sport to lose an entire season to a labor dispute. And when we came out of the labor dispute, came out of the lockout, I think there was a great resolve on everybody's part to try and make the game better. And our focus 4 years ago was how do we make the game better? And we put in a package of rule changes that allow the emphasis of skill and speed in the game, and actually put more hitting in the game too. So I think the product has improved, and I think our fan base has responded and expanded. We had great ratings in the playoffs this year. Attendance is up in an economy that's difficult. And so I think the game's in great shape. We've got a couple problem areas, but you know, for every Phoenix where hockey's right now on thin ice, pardon the poor pun, but for every market where we're struggling, there's a success story, like Chicago or Boston.
And Brian, on the TV ratings, which were fabulous for that last game, the whole TV package and the exposure, just give me your take on that. I know there's lots of discussion of which direction to go.
Well, our primary cable carrier is Versus, and it's very fashionable right now for people to take shots at that because people say, oh, you can't find Versus, and there's no shoulder programming. You know, like if you watch a game on Versus, you might have mixed martial arts, and that ends and goes right into hockey. Whereas we prefer some shoulder programming, say at 6:30, NHL Tonight, pregame show, postgame show. We don't have that on Versus. I'm of a different view. I think Versus does a fabulous job on the game production. I think the camera works excellent. I think the on-air talent that they've hired, the on-air personnel are superb. And I think they're a wonderful partner. And their reach, when we first went on with Versus, they were in 60 million households, and I think now they're up to 80, roughly 80. And they're like 10 million households behind ESPN in terms of penetration. Where we lose a little bit is that they don't have the same public exposure in terms of bars and restaurants where ESPN will be put on routinely in sports bars versus you've got to ask them to put it on. But I think they're a wonderful partner. And NBC, we have a very, it's a word I want. This horse shit might be the word. We have a deal that doesn't pay us a lot of money with NBC. But it's a joint venture where if they're successful, the ratings are good, and it becomes profitable, we split those profits. And we've actually turned a profit the last couple of years with NBC. And again, they're a great partner because their production work is, you know, it's NBC. I mean, their production work is awesome. Their on-air people are great. So it's a slow build. You know, if you go into a room full of people anywhere in the United States, and you ask everyone in the audience, how many people in here have thrown a baseball? Everyone raises their hand. How many people in here have shot a basketball at a basket? Everyone raises their hand. How many people have thrown a football? Everyone raises their hand. How many people have participated in an organized ice hockey game? Right away, the barriers to entry are very significant in our sport. You can't just go out in the street and play. You play road hockey, but you want to play ice hockey, you've got to find a rink, you got to buy ice time, you got to buy equipment, you got to learn to skate. It's the hardest sport to play by a mile of all the professional sports. Many people that want to play it get discouraged easily. Like you can't go skate 10 times and have a proficiency level, whereas you can pick up a basketball and shoot it 10 times and you can hit the rim every time anyway. The proficiency level you need to enjoy the sport in hockey is very difficult to attain, and so we have attrition there with kids that start and say, it's too hard, you know, you get up at 5 in the morning to practice. The end result for us is we get a very dedicated, very committed player. By the time he gets to the pro level, we get a kid that's really paid a price to get there and is happy for the opportunity. Very different than the other sports.
And I've got to say, just being a 60-year-old and watching HD TV and watching hockey, I don't think there's any sport that's benefited from technology, you know, in the last 2 years.
HD TV is the biggest. You watch hockey in HD, it's such a, hockey and golf I think are the best beneficiaries of it. And it's, you know, keep this in mind. You can win a gold medal in the Olympics for skating, 2 different disciplines, figure skating and speed skating, just for skating, which we expect our players to do as a second nature part of the game. Everything a football player has to do, everything a basketball player has to do, our players have to do it on a piece of steel about 1/8 of an inch wide. So it's incredibly difficult. It requires a higher level of athletic ability than any other sport, and it requires fearlessness. It's a very physical, dangerous sport. And so we get, the kids that make it to the top are just superb athletes, and again, they've paid an awful price to get there, and it tends to give us a certain kind of kid.
Yeah. Hey, Patrick, I want